Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Guys, welcome back to our /entitled people, where people think they should get whatever they want, whenever they want, because they're special. Guys, I promise you the stories today involve the most entitled people ever, so sit back, warm up your necks, and put your feet up, because we're diving in. Oh, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for future stories. So, a little bit of backstory. I work as a technician at a cinema. It's really fun, and I enjoy every day, but I do meet my fair share of entitled people. I've been kicked, I've been yelled at, and people have thrown popcorn at me on several occasions. So, at the time, Frozen 2 is currently showing in all theaters. It attracts a lot of people, so it's set up in our biggest auditorium. This specific show was packed. That means a little over 400 people. So in the first 15 minutes, I have to check that everything's going fine in the auditorium. Temperature, sound, and so forth. I stand on the side and I see a mother rushing over to me with her kid, and she's doing it rather loudly. She spoke really loudly during our entire conversation, completely disregarding everybody else in the theater trying to watch the movie. She says, "Excuse me, hello?" I asked her, "Is everything alright?" She then says, "Okay, so my daughter really needs to use the bathroom." At this I respond, okay, it's out the door to the right, and then... She then interrupts and says, No, you have to pause the movie." Now me, lowering my voice and signaling her to follow me, said, "What? I can't pause unless it's something very serious, ma'am." The woman then responds, "My daughter needs to go to the bathroom. It is serious." I told her I'm sorry, but I can't pause the movie for that. She then says, "Listen, you have to. We don't want to miss any part of the movie. We paid a lot of money to see this movie, and you need to do this. You can do this. You work here." So I told her I'm sorry, but there's a packed auditorium, and I can't just pause it for one person. She then says, "But it's not one person. I have 2 kids." Now, at this point, I told her if she has to go to the bathroom, she can do it and come back, but I can't pause it when she's gone. I then turn and start to exit the auditorium, and then suddenly feel something thrown at me. And yeah, it's our biggest, I don't know what to call it in English, popcorn goblet? And I'm thinking, bad choice, lady. I leave the auditorium and called the manager, who then called security, and she was taken out of the cinema. She surprisingly didn't make much noise, but one of her kids tried to spit on the security guy. We didn't press any charges because it was sort of a minor and no one got hurt on our part. If anyone knows the correct word for popcorn goblets, please tell me. I'm so curious now. Okay, so first off, that's some serious entitlement to want the movie paused when there's hundreds of other people watching it. Secondly, popcorn goblet sounds amazing. I'm definitely gonna call it that from now on. But I'm pretty sure it's referred to as a popcorn bucket, OP. A bucket of popcorn, but goblet sounds so much better. Okay, so for context, I'm a female who's 24 years old, and I just bought my very own condo. My mother has nothing to do with it. Now, my mom has always been really entitled. When I first moved out, she gaslit me into giving her my keys to the new place, which she kept referring to as her apartment. Now, I folded then, and I do regret that choice when she kept showing up unannounced when I was at university. As for my new place, she's already threatened to throw me out and get herself a new tenant if she ever comes over to find dishes in the sink or my place is a mess. I never claimed to be the most tidy person, but that didn't sit well with me. What right does she have to throw me out of a condo that I own? My name's in the register, and no one else's. I don't want her to gaslight me into folding again, but she's adamant that it's her apartment, and that she is technically the owner because she gave birth to me and she raised me. Now, I do love my mom, but I'm terrified. When I said that I wouldn't give the keys to my new place, she lost her marbles. She called me ungrateful, saying that it was her apartment and that I had no right to keep her out of it because, quote, "I'm your mother." Now, I do feel like this is my property and my name's on the loan, but I'm also terrified of cutting her off because I know she'll ruin my life as she sees fit. She once called the police to do a wellness check on me because I was in the tub and I didn't respond to her messages quickly enough. Should I give my mom the keys to my new place? Yeah, heck no. I hate when parents use the "I birthed you, I own what you own." Like, OP is 24 years old, and she's a full-grown adult who's capable of making her own decisions. And the mom literally cannot demand the keys or kick OP out of a place that she legally owns and signed documents for, so there's no need to worry about that. The mom's gonna have police to answer to if she oversteps boundaries. But with that said, I feel like OP's mom's never gonna stop trying to dominate her life if she doesn't start standing up for herself. But my friends, what would you do in this situation? My take on it is if your parents respect your boundaries, then 100% give them a house key for emergencies or whatever, but not someone who you're worried might move in and start changing locks on you if your place gets a little bit too messy. That's next level. Okay, so what the heck is wrong with people? I thought learning to respect other people's personal space was something that happened early on in primary school. But it seems like adults and children alike have somehow managed to avoid these life lessons and are running around being inconsiderate little idiots. So a little backstory. I don't leave my house much because I have a physical disability and PTSD from an accident that caused it. So I'd rather not have to deal with people when I work from home. But every now and then, I like to go for a limping walk to the little Thai place down the street and treat myself after finishing case notes or writing copy. Today just so happened to be my unlucky day, as there was a mom with 3 kids between ages 2 to 7 years old, I think, ordering ahead of me. Now, it was no big deal. I assume she's gonna order and then sit down with the kids, and I can choose a seat on the opposite side of the small hole-in-the-wall place. But I have no such luck. They take forever getting their drinks, and then the oldest child comes and sits right at the table next to me. Now, I'm used to people being jerks, pointing and staring, or even random people trying to pray for me because I have an exoskeleton brace since my ankle is mostly arthritis, necrosed bone, and metal plates. Now, it does look pretty cool, and while it's a pain to put on, I'm very glad I have it, but apparently, kids think it's a toy. Now, I haven't even gotten my meal when one of the kids comes running up to me and is staring so hard at me that I'm starting to get creeped out. The kid then says, "What the heck happened to your leg?" Now, I can be an ass sometimes, especially when adults don't know that's not a cool thing to ask a person with a disability. But he's a kid who probably hasn't seen something like this before, so I gently try to tell him, "Hey, that's generally not something you should ask a complete stranger. That's not polite." Now the Karen on her phone looks over to me and says, "Oh, just tell him. He's a curious young boy." Now I'm thinking, really? You're really scolding a 31-year-old woman for not telling your kid about my own private medical history? Your nosy brats aren't entitled to know. So now I'm pissed off, and I pop off saying, "Well, did you drive here?" The kid then points out the window and says, "Yeah, that's our car." I then tell him, "Better hope you don't get into a bad car accident on your way home or something, because that's how my leg got crushed." Now I watch as their eyes widen in horror, and the mom shoots me a nasty look and said, "Why would you tell him that?" But I just shrugged my shoulders and said, "You asked." Now I figured at this point that they would move to a different table, so I tuck in my amazing noodles trying to shrug off the ignorance, but not 5 minutes in, all of our kids run up to me and get all up in my personal space, and one's trying to tug on the straps on my leg. The kid's laughing like it's a game. His sibling is right next to him, trying to touch the carbon fiber struts, and I don't exactly have the best reaction, so I kind of nudged them away from me rather roughly. One starts to cry, and the other is asking me how it works and if I would take it off and let him try. The mom's glaring at me, and she tells me, "You need to be nice and show them how it works. They're just kids. Just explain how your leg works." Now, at this point, I do lose my temper, and it's not my proudest moment, but with PTSD, anger seems to be my most common response to being startled or feel like I'm in a bad situation. So I then say to them, "I'm not your damn introduction to the world of disabilities. What are you trying to do here? Keep your kids on a leash. I know for a fact that you wouldn't be paying me the $10,000 to replace my leg if they broke it, would you? It's a medical device, not a damn toy." So I then grab my food, get up, and leave. The woman tried to argue with me at this point, and she was screaming how I was being rude as I was walking away. So now I'm at home, finally enjoying my Thai food in peace. I'm still fuming, and at the same time I'm completely baffled. Who in their right mind thinks it's okay to let their kids try to crawl all over a complete total stranger? Also, the lack of understanding surrounding treating people with disabilities with respect is apparently not a thing either. Even as a small child, I knew that my grandpa's walker was a medical aid, and while it looked kinda neat, I couldn't play with it because it wasn't a toy. These aren't difficult concepts, yet parents don't bother to teach their kids how to behave appropriately in public anymore, but at least lunch tasted good. My friends, that was so unbelievably rude, and I'm terribly sorry it happened to OP. Like, you need to be nice and show them how it works. How about no? They aren't entitled to know about that kind of stuff if OP doesn't want to share. Like, I do understand how some people would be like, oh, he's just a kid, let him be curious. But honestly, OP's a freaking person. She's not an educational toy or a teaching moment for some kid whose mother didn't take the time to raise him properly. Especially not in a situation where OP's just sitting quietly trying to enjoy her meal. For goodness sake, Karen, think. Please. This story happened some years ago while I was living in the East Coast. I was driving back home from a friend's house and decided to take a detour through one of the more nicer neighborhoods because it was the beginning of fall and I'm just a sucker for the scenery. So while driving, I just so happened to have found another thing I go crazy for, a garage sale. With me having some money on hand, I decided that this was fate, and I pulled over to check it out. Now, at first, I didn't really see anything special, just the kind of stuff you would expect to see at any garage sale. Old furniture, clothes, DVDs, and other small items. But then, in the corner of my eye, I saw something I didn't expect to see, a guitar. So I go in for a closer look, expecting it to be some kind of cheap beginner guitar, like the kind with a brand name that you don't recognize. But no, what stood before me was an actual Gibson Les Paul. Now a side note, to those that don't know, Gibson is a very prestigious guitar brand, and a Les Paul is possibly their most famous model type. This model of guitar is legendary for being the weapon of choice amongst god-level rock stars like Slash from Guns N' Roses or Ace Frehley from Kiss, and she was beautiful. And yes, I do refer to guitars as she. She was gold in color, with white trim and kind of looked old, but she was in really good condition. But what really got me into an actual state of shock was the price tag. The price tag said $50. Now, I couldn't help but to think that the person selling this forgot to add another zero to the end of the price. So I picked up the guitar and go up to the woman handling the sale to ask her about it. Now, the woman didn't look like a typical entitled parent, but her attitude and body language just radiated entitlement. It was like her aura was almost made out of pure smugness and hatred for the working class. Just by talking to her, I couldn't help but feel that she was the kind of soccer mom that you would expect to yell at a coach, as well as the referee, or maybe parents and some of the kids, but I digress. So I walk up to her and say, "Excuse me ma'am, can I ask about this guitar? The price says $50, is that correct?" Now the woman looks at me and says, "Yeah, that's correct." I told her, "Well, that's an unusually good price, is there a reason for that?" The entitled mom then says, "Yeah, it's broken. I figured someone could use it like a decoration in their man cave or something." Now hearing this breaks my heart, but it also got me curious because I couldn't find anything physically wrong with the guitar. There were no cracks or no other signs of damage. So I started asking more questions, thinking maybe I could fix her later. However, it was at this moment that any and all logic began to die and roll down the hill away from me. I asked her, "So can I ask what's wrong with it?" The woman then says, "Yeah, my baby can't play it." Excuse me? My son, he says it's unplayable. So I ask her, "Oh, well, does he work with guitars? Like, is he a technician or something?" The mother then says, "Oh no, he can't work. My baby's only 12. Hearing that stunned me for a quick second, but then I decided to try to give her the benefit of the doubt. I don't know this kid, so maybe he was those young musical virtuosos who got accepted to Juilliard early or something. I then said, "So I take it that your son's musically talented?" She tells me, "Oh, very much so. He plays that Guitar Hero game all the time." I then look at her and said, what? "Oh, you know, that game where you play music. He's constantly playing that video game, and he's always getting the high score on it." Now, I did keep a straight face, but my mind was turning into that meme of the woman trying to do math. I said to her, "So because of that, you got him a guitar?" She said, "Well, of course. When you have a child as gifted as mine, it's important that you nurture their gifts." I then said to her, "So you think he knows what he's doing?" She replies, He obviously knows what he's doing, so if he says it's broken, then it's broken. Listening to her talk really did make my brain hurt, but it also helped me decide to take the chance and buy the guitar. While paying, this woman goes on an insanely long rant about how the guitar was actually a gift from the kid's late grandfather from the dad's side, and how he must not like her son because he gave him an old hand-me-down guitar instead of a brand new one. Now, hearing this all legitimately upset me, but I just decided to keep my mouth shut and leave. So after getting home, I immediately took the guitar, plugged her into my amp, retuned her, and played a few notes and chords. To my amazement, she sounded perfect. It felt as if her soul was singing the praises of freedom. I spent the rest of the day playing and tripping out that not only have I purchased my first ever Gibson Les Paul, but I also only paid $50. But the story doesn't end there. So a few weeks later, I met a friend at a party who was an actual guitar technician. I told him my story and asked if he could appraise my guitar for me and tell me her true value, and the results blew me away. It turns out that my baby was a vintage Les Paul from 1973, retailing at well over $3,000. He then asked me if I was interested in selling, but I told him that there was absolutely no way that I'm ever letting go of her. But the story still doesn't end here. So shortly after getting my baby appraised, I got a word from a friend who turns out works in the same office building with the husband of the entitled mom. She updates me about what she learned, and apparently the entitled mom's husband is of course righteously pissed. It turns out that not only did she sell a very expensive guitar for $50, but she sold it without him knowing. Not only that, my friend informs me that she's also been looking for me. My friend tells me that she wants to find me so she can demand the guitar back, not even offer to buy it back. She apparently wants to demand that I give it back for free because I, quote, scammed her out of a priceless family heirloom and robbed her child's ability to play music. My friend said she didn't say anything about her knowing me, but then she asked me if I wanted her to say anything to them about who I was. I told her absolutely not. If she wants a guitar, she can go buy a new one with the money that I gave her, just like she planned. And I agree that this guitar is a family heirloom, but it's my family heirloom. I'm also sorry, but if it means anything, if you're reading this, I named her Karen. My friends, I would be shaking from excitement if I were OP at that moment. And the fact that he got a vintage Les Paul that's worth $3,000 for $50 at a garage sale is absolutely amazing. But that aside, holy crapoli, how did that mom think that her son's video game skills would translate into real guitar skills? Like, I'm so confused and baffled at the same time. So this all happened during the Texas power outage, and my whole street had lost power, and I was getting ready to head to my uncle's house because he had electricity. Not even kidding. 2 minutes before I was about to leave, I get a knock at the door. I go to answer it and see my neighbor who lives in the house behind me. We'll call her Big Bertha, with her kid. I say, hey, and ask what's going on. Big Bertha tells me that they had a family occupying their house and they needed a place to stay because it was too full. I then said to them, sorry, but I'm leaving myself. I won't be able to let you guys stay. Now keep in mind, I barely even know these people. And she responds with the most entitled statement ever. She says, so you're gonna be the reason we freeze. Great, you're so selfish. I was honestly in shock. I didn't know what to do. I was expecting for her to just accept it and be on her way. I then said to her, I'm sorry, and I go and close the door. As it was closing, I hear her say, ouch! I turn around to see that she put her foot between the door so it wouldn't close. She then opens it back up, steps into my house, yanking her kid in with her. She then looks at me and says, we're not leaving. I said, what? What do you mean you're not leaving? Now I didn't know what to think. This fool was acting like she was a dictator or something. At that point, I knew she was too stubborn to be convinced, and I'd have to trick her. What I did was said, here, come with me. I'll get you the spare key to my house so you can access it while I'm gone. It's out front. I then grabbed my bags and had them follow me outside. But as soon as the door closed, I locked it and sped out of my driveway. I nearly ran Big Bertha over because she thought she could stop me by standing in the middle of the road. When I get to my uncle's, I realized that I forgot my phone, but it turns out it's alright because I didn't need it anyway. But oh my gosh, that lady was insane, and I haven't seen her since that incident. Guys, what a crazy neighbor OP has. Putting your foot into a door, like, come on. And then trying to force your way in, like she's lucky OP was calm in that situation. Forcing your way into someone's home is not something you should do. That could have ended really, really bad for her. But that, my friends, is our /entitled people. Guys, we survived another one. If you enjoyed the stories in this one, do hit that like button. And if you missed yesterday's episode, I'll link it right here. A psycho Karen attacks OP's disabled sister, thinking she's a Target employee. It's such a crazy story, so go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Steve-O will see you guys in the next one. We love you.